Welcome to Jazz in the Land, the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra podcast, featuring your host, Darrell Scott.
Welcome to Jazz in the Land. I am Darrell Scott. Hopefully you are having a good day. This will be a good show. We're going to talk about the upcoming show we got coming up, which is CJO in the Club. And the two gentlemen who are the major supporters, the major producers of this show are our guests today. I will let you all introduce yourselves and you can tell everybody what you do. Paul, you can go first.
I've been fortunate to be the Artistic Director of the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra since 2015. So I assemble programs and hire guest artists. And through the course of a year, I hope that we cover a huge spectrum of orchestral jazz.
Our other guest is Simon Reed. How are you? What exactly is your role?
Well, I'll be sitting in the Stefan Grappelli seat. We'll be playing heads from Django and Grappelli's band, the Quintet of the Hot Club of France, which was active, I think roughly around 1934 to 42 or something like that. But it was that sort of period of World War II European swing.
So describe, each one of you take your own point, your own view of, tell us about CJO Club. What is that? What can we expect?
Well, the first half, we're going to focus on Duke Ellington at the Cotton Club. So Ellington performed at the Cotton Club. He was the house band there from late 1927 until early 1931. So almost a 4-year period. And this brought Duke to national recognition because his band was being heard on the radio all across the country. So what a tremendous boost to his career. Also, he had to be kind of extra professionalized himself in the band for the purposes of performing, but also Duke had to crank out a fair amount of music over periods of time. So it was just a tremendous incubator period for Duke. I'd say in 1927, Duke was a composer who kind of put stuff together with the guys in his band. And by the time he left the Cotton Club to do more touring, he was a much more mature composer working more on his own. So that's the Duke that we're going to hear Duke evolving over a 4-year period here.
Reed, your role in this is?
So yeah, I'll be playing jazz violin. We'll be doing tunes that Django wrote, or maybe they co-wrote, but Django's name is on it. From what I know, or what I've heard, I've never really researched it, but apparently the first time Django, or maybe the only time he was ever in Cleveland, happened to correspond, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, coincidentally, with Duke Ellington's appearance. Paul will fill me in on this. I'll fill us in. But it was an interesting kind of a coincidence.
Paul is such a wealth of knowledge.
I didn't know that, but anything could happen in Cleveland back then. It was one of the, well, it's still one of the world's major cities, but especially then, there's a much higher concentration of wealth in Cleveland at the time. So really, what we're trying to do this evening is to give a feeling of one of the themes, how we're advertising the show is just called Clubbin. The idea is that you would dip into the Cotton Club for a while and hear Duke Ellington with his band. And then, you're not crossing the street, but cross the ocean in your imagination and wander into a jazz club in Paris in the early 1930s as well. And you're hearing a very different take on jazz. So it's going to be an evening of, there's a fair amount of variety within Ellington's music and also a fair amount of variety within the Parisian group. So altogether, really quite an evening of music, I'd say.
How long does it take to put a show like this together? from the idea stage to interpreting the music, to playing the music, to rehearsing with the band, to that actual night of March 20th?
Well, I'll start. During COVID, we kind of got the Little Big Band founded because it was suggested that if you had smaller groups and people were separated by 8 feet or 6 feet, less chance of getting the virus. So anyway, we created the Little Big Band, and one of the concerts we did was with Reed. I created some small group charts for that, and it just seemed natural to expand those to a big band. and the opportunity arose to do a concert together this year. So anyway, I had to redo all those charts for Reed, and then also redo a significant number of Ellington pieces, because Ellington's band only had one trombone at the time, and had three trumpets and often just three or four saxophones. So it's been a lot of reorchestration, and but very gratifying. It's a real lesson for me to study all this stuff and to kind of recreate it in a sense.
So, Paul, let me ask you this real quick. How long does it take you once the idea is there? Then you have to research the artist, the music, the band. How long does that take you? Because you also have, don't get me wrong, you also have another job.
Yeah, it takes about 100 hours, I'd say. So it's about 10 hours a week over a period of a few months, something like that. You know, it's nothing crazy. You know, a couple hours here, there, in a day. So it's enough with everything else, but it's very gratifying. I get to hang out with Duke Ellington. You know, that's the greatest thing. You know, he's like a pal in a way. It's wonderful.
And Reed, what about the time it takes you to get ready for the performance?
Well, I think, all musicians have to maintain, their instrument. You just there's an athletic component to that. It's something that you have to, you have to have a regular practice routine. So yeah, that just becomes part of it. I did want to just make a note, and this is kind of a side note, that Duke Ellington's lead trumpet player, Ray Nance, was an amazing, soulful violinist. And Ellington would feature him every now and then. And it's so interesting to hear the two, playing. So Ellington recorded one of his, I think it was around 1980, the jazz violin session. So he had Ray Nance, he had Stefan Grappelli, and he had Danish fiddler and violist Sven Asmussen on that record. It's one of my most cherished LPs of all time. So there's just some interesting sort of, connections in history, through this. I would just make one last note too regarding the Quintet of the Hot Club of France and Grappelli. I have a book, an early jazz violin sort of practice book where Grappelli's interviewed. And he's quoted as saying when they were forming the band, they looked for a lot of inspiration, and one of the places they looked, of course, was Joe Venuti, pioneer jazz violinist, and they looked for inspiration with Joe Venuti and Eddie Lang, though he was a guitar player, and they both played in more or less Philadelphia, in Atlantic City, but really they were the first ones to start recording, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a big part of their inspiration as well.
So let me ask both of you this. You've heard the original compositions, the original tunes, and now we're going to take it and kind of remake it, probably say add our personalities to it. When you sit down and listen to the original and then you interpret it and play it your way, what's the feeling you get from doing that?
It can be a real feeling of fulfillment. And also you have to, there's always a fine line between, wanting to honor how a piece was played, but also to honor the spirit of how the musician maybe would have evolved performing it had they continued playing it a lot. Like even Miles Davis, you listen to his recording of So What from 1959, but then listen to him play it with Herbie Hancock and Ron Carter 5 years later. It sounds like a whole new piece. So when we reinterpret Ellington, I think Duke would say that's what I would have done, or I would have done. If not that, I certainly would have continued changing it. Because, for example, the first song we're playing is Duke's theme song called East St. Louis Toodaloo. It was his theme song for about 10 years before Billy Strayhorn wrote Take the A Train. And but Duke rearranged East St. Louis Toodaloo about 5 times. There's about 5 different versions out. Yeah. Always fiddling with it. The same thing with Mood Indigo, always fiddling. So to kind of rearrange Duke a little bit is to, I feel his hand on my shoulder saying, yeah, just keep transforming it. keep changing the story a little bit, because the story has to adapt to a new generation somehow. So,
Oh, you just gave me an idea, and it's my sense of humor. Um, as you get up there and you're playing, I think I'm going to sneak up behind you and put my hand on your shoulder, just so you kind of recreate that. Reed, what about you?
Well, I would say that it's a real-time creative process that you enter into in a collaboration, not knowing exactly how it's going to come out. But that's really the exciting part about it, because every performance in this context, like Paul said, can be radically different, not just for the influences outside of any particular style, but for your own language that you've developed over the years, which is influenced by many musicians and all kinds of music. So you develop your language from the rich history that you are part of. And that's a great honor. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to be able to do that. And I'm so inspired by these projects that Paul does. It's interesting to note too that during the period of the Quintet of the Hot Club of France, they didn't use a drummer.
yeah.
So they didn't have, so on the other side of the pond, so to say, is the big band era. And the violins had, I think, they really didn't have the power to compete, at that time with the brass, and so forth and so on. So you don't really see that at all, pretty much virtually, as part of the big band movement in America. But on the other side, in Europe, in France, and with this group particularly, it's a rhythm guitar playing the backbeat, and then it's a lead guitar. So there's it's acoustic, and so it's an interesting take on what was happening in America as well. And now it's coming together with Paul's project here.
That's really a good point about the drums, because Ellington's band at the Cotton Club often had kind of a boom, boom, ba boom, kind of a funeral march sound a little bit. This is kind of still coming out of New Orleans. So then when we get to Paris or we get to France, it'll lighten up a little bit. If I might coin a phrase, the sun might come out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really good. So, but yeah, there's going to be a heavier feel at the beginning, a little bit more visceral, more guttural. And the second half will be a little bit lighter. But I should mention that the last piece we play is going to combine Tiger Rag with an Ellington piece called Braggin' and Brass. So that's going to be kind of a medley of Paris meets the Cotton Club right there. Those two songs have the same chord changes, so it's going to sound a little bit like one song, if depending on how you're listening, and that'll be hopefully a thrilling finale. So
now, have you two played together before?
Many times, yeah. Well, actually, the last time that Reed and I played together was at the Paris Room in Chagrin Falls. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And it was so cool because when Paul is playing trombone, right, and I'm playing violin, these are two instruments that are fretless or keyless, you know what I mean? So, and it's interesting to have those two instruments together, one being obviously a string instrument and the other brass, but they both are similar in the way that there are no frets on the violin, and Paul can speak to the trombone and the slide and everything else.
Yeah, it presents different avenues toward expressiveness. So, because you can slide around quite a bit more and create different sort of vocal effects. Oh, one thing about the program I want to mention too is that another person who was quite visible at the Cotton Club was the composer Harold Arlen. Now, Arlen is mostly known for writing the great music for The Wizard of Oz, especially Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But we're going to do an Arlen medley of that's going to feature Evelyn Wright, and it includes I Got a Right to Sing the Blues, I've Got the World on a String, and Stormy Weather. So these were all written when Arlen was active at the Cotton Club writing review shows That's a large part of what they did at the Cotton Club. It wasn't really a jazz club where people would just, a group would just play whatever. These were highly polished review shows with dancing and skits and music and all. So Stormy Weather was written, for that venue, and the great singer was Ethel Waters doing it. Huge hit on that. So that's part of the history of the Cotton Club that we're going to be covering. It's interesting to imagine Ethel Waters singing Stormy Weather, accompanied live by the Duke Ellington Orchestra. What a thought!
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool thing.
Each of you have talked about the fact of getting the music ahead of time, practicing, rehearsing, so forth and so on. You all don't do this 8 times a year. You know what I mean? So we come together on this one event. How much interaction have you two had in preparation for this show?
Well, we're doing, some repeats of what we did with the Little Big Band. But again, actually, Reed very graciously came to my rehearsal at Case Western Reserve last night because I just wanted him to have a run through before he rehearses with Cleveland Jazz Orchestra. So it's just raising both of our comfort levels to kind of run through the stuff and make sure that everything's in place. So, but generally, I think jazz musicians operate better with a really highly focused mind. And if you over-rehearse stuff, I don't know, you might get into some boring habits. Maybe.
Reed, what about you?
Oh, yes, that was very helpful to me to sort of just kind of get acclimated again by going to Paul's rehearsal with his students at Case last night, and to see where, Paul has wonderful arrangements of these songs that are not in the same form as, say, the original, song, and it's very helpful to, see how that's going to play out and how that's going to work, because I'm both reading music, but I'm also improvising too at different places, and as other musicians are also doing.
I'm going to say this. I can't wait to this. I enjoy listening to music and then understanding that this is somewhat of an interpretation of the song. So it takes quality musicians, it takes quality playing. There's an opportunity to rehearse. But I just think sometimes music is just music, and you want to sit back and listen. I went to a concert one time, and I sat in the very last row of the venue because I just wanted to listen. I don't necessarily need the conversation to the left or right. I just want to enjoy what I'm listening to. So in a nutshell, if you could describe what we should expect on March 20th, what would you say we should expect?
Both cities are cities of amazing technique and creativity, sensuality, and storytelling, Paris and New York. And I just hope we bring out all of those qualities of late 20s, early 30s New York and 1930s Paris. I hope we bring out all of the warmth, all of the sensuality, and indeed all of the technique too. This is difficult music to play well. So New York meets Paris at a time right before the movie Casablanca. So was there a violinist in Casablanca? I can't remember. Was there?
Now I got to go back and watch the movie.
Yeah. So that's 1940 or so. And
Reed, what are you hoping to give the audience?
Just to contribute to the marvelous energy that the CJO is famous for. It's just going to be a great night of music.
Last question, and it's basically just for Reed. Reed, how did you become involved with the CJO?
Well, it was Paul. Paul invited me to play, and that's pretty much how it started. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, Reed started playing jazz violin more visibly in town about 20 years ago or so, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. And right, yeah, with a band called Hot Jang.
Yeah, so I would sit in with Reed once in a while. One time it was at Phoenix Coffee House, I think, or something, and so one of the real pleasures in jazz over the last 20 years or so has been seeing like Reed become an ever more formidable soloist. We have plenty of people who get better and better at bebop and stuff like that. That's all good, but Reed is developing kind of a more of a personal vocabulary on the violin that's more highly idiosyncratic and therefore oftentimes extremely interesting and just pleasurable and fun.
All right.
That's very high praise coming from Paul Ferguson.
Well,
Nice.
just honest.
All right, gentlemen. I greatly appreciate the time. We're looking very much forward to the show. CJO Club happens Friday night, March 20th. And don't get me wrong, probably at intermission, some guy's going to walk up and introduce himself to you.
Okay.
Paul's been through it already. But Reed, I look forward to meeting you. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Jazz in the Land. There's more next.
Do you have any instruments in need of a good home? The Cleveland Jazz Orchestra's Instrument Donation Program helps put instruments into the hands of students in need. Donate an instrument and you will receive a pair of tickets to one of our season series shows. Contact booking at clevelandjazz.org for more information.
Welcome to the CJO podcast, the original CJO podcast, Jazz in the Land. I am Darrell Scott. Our guest today is a young man who's done an awful lot of stuff. And I want to get into the librarian thing here in a moment.
Sure.
But I found that kind of, it's not that you see that with every musician. He's played around the world. He's played with different stars, from Sinatra to David Sanborn to whoever. And in a couple of weeks, he's going to be playing at the Most Museum as part of the CJO. This is George Shernit.
Correct.
How are you, George?
Real good. How are you doing?
I am fine. Let's first of all talk about your beginning. How did we get to the CJO?
Did you say the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I had just got off the road with the Broadway musical Annie, and a friend of mine gave me a call and said, "Hey, George, we're starting this group," and it was like a rehearsal band at that time, and it met on Monday nights, and it was a nice band. It was fun to play and do some reading, and that group eventually became as the North Coast Jazz Orchestra. Then Gary Scott moved to town, and he kind of had an idea about a little different twist on things, and he started a thing called the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra, which used like 99% of the same musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything went to the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra name, and we had the grants and stuff that were going. It became a nonprofit corporation, so I was just there from the beginning, sort of.
So in the beginning, can you give me a picture of what this CJO orchestra was? How many dates were you playing? How much were you learning? How much were you rehearsing? Things like that.
Originally, and some of this may be mixing in some of the North Coast stuff, it was a Monday night rehearsal band that would occasionally put on a concert. And then when Gary Scott did some stuff, he would have concerts in mind, and then we would work towards that concert. And so eventually it morphed from doing every Monday night to doing like a Monday or two before a particular date. And then there were other times that it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a concert Friday or Saturday. So it was pretty focus driven after we got going. So we weren't just rehearsing to rehearse, we were rehearsing for particular gigs eventually.
And how long are the rehearsals? And I'll show you where I'm going once you answer this question.
Okay, the rehearsals, they're scheduled right now for 2.5 hours, and they basically go maybe a little less than that, but pretty close.
So my ultimate question is, how long does it take you, the band, everybody involved, to come up with the song that you're doing? How much rehearsal is involved? How much, if there's any improvisation, is there any change? Are there any arguments?
No, there's might be questions about how do we interpret this or that, but Paul Ferguson kind of will settle that down to what he prefers. And or first, it's kind of like the section leaders will say, do it this way. And if it's an ensemble that everybody is kind of a unison rhythm on, then the lead trumpet player will pretty much dictate what the rest of us are playing. And some tunes, we virtually get the first try through it. Some of them take, a few run throughs. We typically have like a Monday rehearsal, a Thursday rehearsal, and then the concert.
So you can't get there late because your rehearsal and the rehearsal, I'm sure, is tight.
Yeah.
And we have to get what we get done. When you're playing with the orchestra, let's say at the Maltz Museum, like you're going to do on the 20th of March, what is the feeling? What is the joy you get from sitting in front of that audience and playing? Or what is the feeling of just going out there and having some music and just playing in front of fans?
Well, fortunately, everybody in the group really likes the big band format.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have a great time playing it. So the feeling is this is going to be fun. And there's a lot of things that when you get 17, 18 people all doing the same thing, hopefully phrasing exactly the same way, cutoffs really precise, attacks really precise, and the group will feel certain dynamic contrasts. So maybe things will that aren't even written, we just are able to put into the music, and it really makes it a blast to do that. And the tighter it is, the more we listen to each other, the more fun we have. So the more we do it that way.
What are you looking for out of this performance with the CJO? Are you looking to grow, to expand your musical brand, so to speak? What are you looking for?
I look for playing music I like with friends I like. It's kind of that simple. It's really fun, and sometimes it's something that I've played for many, many decades, and sometimes I've never played something before, and it's just everything we do is just fun. It's a real kick to play the stuff that when it comes together.
I sit and I watch.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to music. Are there conversations being had while you're up on stage about different things, about the quality of music, this particular song, or you missed that note or something like that? Is there anything like that?
Nothing like that, but there might be something that occurs when we do something different than we rehearse, and we might give each other a look in the eye and just double check that we all caught that this is going to be a little bit different, or we'll do a little hand signal like we're not doing that, or come back in or something. And we pay attention to Paul, so it's stuff happens, but it's not really it's not a verbal conversation so much.
So are there occasions when, say, the set's gone too long, do you eliminate songs and go, we're not going to do this one, we're just going to skip right to this?
Sometimes it happens, yeah, occasionally, especially if maybe the solos got going a lot longer than we thought, or something like that, and now we're out of time, and we may drop a piece here and there. Not too common, but it does happen.
See, I just want to be the fly on the wall once during rehearsals and then once the show starts to compare the two together. Are there ever occasions when you get the song in rehearsal, you play it in rehearsal, and you get to the show and it sounds a little bit different? You make some changes?
Yeah. I mean, there are times it kind of, I think the aiming point is that the pinnacle of the whole thing is going to be at the performance. And, there may be something that we're doing in the rehearsal that we're just saving a little bit of energy and stuff like that. But once we get to the performance, we know we only have a certain amount of time, and we can kind of pace ourselves and let it all out.
I'm always amazed at musicians. Number one, how many songs do you think off the top of your head without reading?
I'm not the greatest person on that. I know, a few dozen tunes pretty well, probably a few hundred songs that I could kind of get by on, but there's a lot of guys in the group that could play just about anything. And unfortunately, I'm not one of those. I can play a lot of things, but I'm not quite as well versed at that as some of the guys who just are like Jackie. Jackie can play anything. She's terrific. And then other people are Jack Shantz and Brad Wagner and Chris Burge. They can play along with anything. I'm not that person, but I try. I'm learning.
Good. What is the greatest thing about being in the CJO? What's the thing you look most forward to when you are performing with this group of personnel?
When it comes together, and it's just again, it's a lot of fun to play. The when the contrasts in the music, and when it suddenly gets exciting, the surprises in the music is a lot of fun. When it really swings hard and everybody's into it, and the crowd does make a difference too, especially when the crowd appreciates it and they understand it, and they're enjoying it. That makes a difference. It's a lot easier to play with people there.
Describe your first experience in playing in front of an audience.
Okay, that was in 1968. It was a five-piece group, and we played for a Kiwanis club, and we played for 15 minutes. I was in the 8th grade, and we made $5 each, which for 15 minutes was like fantastic.
Yes.
And we, played, it was some Herb Alpert stuff and just some popular tunes of the day, sax, a trumpet, trombone, and some rhythm people. And we didn't even know we needed a bass player yet. So that was the first performance. It got better when we added a bass. And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And you play the baritone sax, correct?
Yes.
Why the baritone sax, and what made you pick that instrument up?
Well, in high school, I kind of got used to playing it occasionally with, there was a bassoonist that got sick for 6 months. I don't know if he had mono or something. In the orchestra, there were bassoon parts and nobody was playing them. And I figured out I could read the bassoon part, bass clef on a baritone sax. So I got kind of a real delicate touch. It was my first experience to baritone sax, and I started playing it there. But really, like most of my life, I played alto primarily.
Mm.
Then I moved to Texas for a while, and everybody thought I was a tenor player. And then when I moved back up to Ohio, it was right at the time when a really great player, was leaving the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra. And I came back in, and there was an opening in baritone sax. So I assumed that chair, and that's where I've been kind of typecast ever since.
How long has that been? How long have you played baritone sax with the CJO?
Regularly now, let's see, for 28 years. And then there was a 8-year spot where I was in Texas, and before that I always played alto. But I've played the tenor chairs also.
Why are there are 5 saxophones?
Usually.
What is the difference in sound between them all? I mean, if I said, if you could play me an alto sax and then play me a baritone sax, what's the difference?
Well, the primary difference, of course, is the range, where the altos are here and the tenors are here, and the baritones lower. But the thing that's unique about the saxophone family is that you get all those ranges within one family. It's not, it'd be kind of like if you had a piccolo trumpet, a trumpet, and a bass trumpet together, or a 2 or 3 different ranged of trombones or something. But here you've got all these, it could be soprano sax too, which is even higher, and it's all in the same family. So the voicing and the sound is similar. You just get the lush sound of everything, plus you get the really wide range all within one group. So that's the fun part of the 5 saxes.
Who were your influences when you were younger with the saxophones?
Boy, my favorite player has always been Cannonball Adderley.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, his sound, but the way he improvises and all that, that's just, I don't come anywhere close to anything other than I really like that in my mind. But then beyond that, boy, there's dozens and dozens of players that really are terrific. But it's just a matter of listening to something and trying to be influenced by what they're doing and enjoying that.
All right. One of your other task positions is the librarian for the CJO.
Yeah.
First of all, what's in this library? And is there a way, if I wanted to listen to something or get something, that I can do it? Give me all the rules.
Well, I'm not sure about the listening. I know that for many years, a lot of the stuff was recorded, and I think there's an archive somewhere. I don't keep track of that, but I believe that there are a bunch of things that are available to somebody. I don't have copies of them, but it's a lot of stuff's out there. And then the rules on the music and stuff is we've got, I don't know, maybe 700 charts that we've played over the years, and I just keep it in files and filing cabinets and put it together when we're about to have a concert. And of course, nowadays a lot of the stuff comes on PDFs instead of printed. So then I also will end up printing stuff out too.
So if I wanted to do a particular chart, I would have to come see you and get it from the library.
More or less, yeah.
So you're the keeper of the keys.
Just to the music. just that part.
Is there, and I don't know if you'll know this, is there something in that library that is extra special that if a concert came up and you needed to do a special song or special arrangement of something, is there something in there that's kind of like special?
Well, there's a few hundred that are special to me, but it's all based on whatever the artist or Paul Ferguson is choosing. So the artist wants to do certain tunes, and either Paul's writing an arrangement for it or the artist provides the arrangement for it. And then there's stuff that's just in the library that we've done. Sometimes some of the best stuff we've ever done, we've only done one time. And then other things we have done more than once, but they exist, and it's all for who's ever putting the concert together. I just put the music together. I don't choose the music, but Paul and or the guest artist will choose all the music.
Are there times when you hope something gets played, when you are looking for something, or somebody calls out a song and you get excited about the fact that maybe we haven't played it in a while, maybe it's a special tune? Is there wants that you have like that?
Well, there's not too much surprise because, like, if we're doing 12 or 20 charts for a concert, that's all that's in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So about the only thing that would happen is we don't do something we expected to, but there's never a time that we're going to play something we didn't expect to play because we didn't bring it with us then. But there are times that I hear of a theme that we're about to do, and I might secretly wish for a particular tune, but I just play whatever. I just pull out whatever I'm told to pull out.
I'm getting insight on what you guys do from the orchestra standpoint.
Sure.
I'm not spying. I'm just looking for information.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you had your way, what's the number one song you would play?
Oh boy, I mean, give me for instance, like at what type of a concert and what type of an audience and things like that. I mean, that's and if you're going to ask that seriously, you got to ask me, name one out of the top 5, because 20 seconds after I say it,
you're going to come up with something else,
something different. Yeah.
What do you enjoy about playing?
Well, it's just something I've always done since early on. I had a piano at the house, and my father built an organ, and I took piano lessons, and then I started playing clarinet and then sax and added flute. And I've just always enjoyed playing, period. And then playing with others when it really mixes well and everybody's on the same page, which we typically are with the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra. It's just a real blast to play the stuff and have, it's kind of like, you can play a professional sport and somebody can completely botch a play and it bounces off of somebody's helmet, and then they catch it and score a touchdown. Whereas with music, I mean, it's not like you got to be a quarter second on time. No, you got to be right on it directly. So it's just kind of fun when everything comes together perfectly like that. It's a real kick.
George, it's been a pleasure. I've gotten some great insight. I will see you at the next performance. Keep playing the music, and I greatly appreciate you taking some time for Jazz in the Land, the original CJO podcast.
This has been Jazz in the Land, the CJO podcast on behalf of the Cleveland Jazz Orchestra. Thanks so much to our board and staff and audience and supporters, and especially to the crew that makes this podcast possible, including host Darrell Scott, producer Scott Marsh and George Carr, and associate producer Ricky Exton. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to sharing jazz with you in the future.